So it's this great sounding, gritty sounding track. It's exactly 80 BPM, and this is the track that I've created using only standard Logic instruments. So just about 40 seconds worth of the track. It's much longer than that, but I just did this section. Now let's go to the individual instruments, okay? We're going to begin with the guitars because I think that defines the sound of this particular track. And I didn't use real guitars for this because I'm just expecting that a lot of you guys might not have real guitars or might not be real guitarists. And I'm trying to limit to using only the Logic instruments. So let's have a look at how it works. The first track I wanted to get was that big chunky guitar sound, right? And I thought Sculpture would be a great place to start. So here's Sculpture. And I'm going to take out the effects on this. And I found a preset called Underplugged Instruments called Telecaster that is really nice sounding, like... Okay, right now it sounds a little bit boring, but if you play on the lowest part of the scale, you hear this. It's got that growl about it. It's a bit gritty, and you know, that wobbly kind of growl. I thought, wow, that's a great place to start. So I ran it through a Logic amp, which was one of those presets which is Little Big Distort. And it starts sounding really gritty and nice. Okay, let's turn this on. It's got a nice vibe about it. You know, it's starting to sound more distorted. But I know we did it more. Still sounds not fat enough. So what we did was I added 3 octaves worth of it. So it sounds like this. By itself, it just sounds... So if you add this 3, it sounds... It's just that little bit fatter. So what you get with a delay, and this delay is stock standard delay. I just turned it on and left it. You get is this. I'm just gonna solo this. And I quantized this to 16th notes. And that was that. So moving on, I thought, you know, it's not big enough. You need more stuff, you know, sitting on top of that. And first thing is you can hear in the Mad Max guitars is that you can hear this little pew pew kind of thing going on top of it. So I looked for a little sound that could sit on top of the guitars with that kind of sound. And I found one in Alchemy, which has that thing, and it's called Arcturus. And if you listen to Arcturus, right, it's got that growl, and it still has that little coming on top of it, which I really like. So if you pair that with the Telecaster, you get this. So now we're getting closer to where we want the sound to get. But there still needs to be another top end because it's all very low and growly, but we need something to sit on top. And what I found was this Alchemy patch. And it's called After the Snow. And if you listen to that, it's got this. Okay, I can't more about the high end, so I added something like. And yeah, this one has a delay on it already. Without the delay, it sounds like this. So it's got that gritty high end that fills up the space, and I just added the standard delay as well. So all those three working together has a certain sound about it. I think it's pretty much the guitar sound that you get in the Mad Max theme. So those are the guitars. But if you listen to Junkie's theme, you'll hear drums as well. So there's nice big hard-hitting drums. So we needed just the basis of the drums, and I found one in the drum machine designer called After Party, and you can find the kicks of After Party sound like this. So it's just the basis of it, you get that. And after that, I added this other kick that you can find under drum machine designer kit pieces kicks. You see a kick called Silver Lake, and Silver Lake sounds like this. So it's got a bit more body about it, you know. And if you put them together, so you get the low end, you get the body, and then I decided to add one more, which is under drum machine designer, under kit pieces, FX. There's something called Stomp Trapdoor, which has this really interesting distorted sound about it. So it sounds like this. And I thought, wow, that's perfect. That's kind of in between the guitars and the drums, and it kind of glues everything together. So if you put all three together, you get this big sound. And that's pretty nice, you know. And if you put together with the guitars, you kind of get, I don't know, 80% of sound already. Nice and big. And if you're thinking about the Mad Max theme, the first part of the track is almost completely repetitions of this three hit pattern, this tom, tom, tom pattern. So I just copied it all across. And so now we're looking at the toms, right? And the toms are from this drum kit, a standard drum kit that you can select called Heavy. And let's take out all the processing. And if you listen to it, so you got your toms here. And I pan them slightly to the left because I'm pairing them with something later on the right. So, okay, so there's no real EQ going on here. This was part of the preset. I added an enveloper, just increasing the attack of the drums because I needed the toms to be fiercer. So here's what we got. So get a bit more attack on the drums, and then I compressed it. So, and what I used was this vintage opto. Actually, I used a standard one called opto toms, so you can use that as well, and you'll get a much bigger sound. So it's getting pretty aggressive already, but you want it to get even bigger. So you need to turn on some reverb, and I send it to bus 6. And this Space Designer reverb that I'm using is called Ancient Church, 6.1 seconds. It's a really big, nice space filling reverb, and here's how it sounds. Right? So that's all nice. We need more bigness into our toms, so I added this fantastic kit that I really love called the European Folk Kit. You can find it under World Percussion European Folk Kit. It's got some really nice crashes, toms, and yeah, I added some stuff as well. There's a compressor and a tape delay. All these are pretty standard. Send it to bus 10 and 11. And I panned it to the right. Slightly. 29. And these are really nice heart attack type stuff that when you pair it with the heavy kit, here's how it sounds. Starting to sound pretty big. Pretty big. I'm liking this. And let's play that again. So that is the sound of the drums, and if we put it together with the guitars, here's how they sound. Now we have a little swells here and there. I found them. Okay, this swell here, it goes like that. It's just the part that, you know, after the drums, the things that fills the space. I found one under what was it? Analog mono. Yeah, and yeah, I'll just open it up. It's just a very basic dirty sweller. It's on a mono synth here and a little bit of EQ, like that. And these are all standard stuff. So yeah, you get that, which is gritty and nicely swelling. And then I added all these little things that you can see here. These are just standard Logic loops, Apple loops. So like this swell here. So we paired that with the swelling here and you get a little bit of, which is pretty cool. That's the vibe that you want to get, you know. It's not exactly the same as Junkies, but you kind of want to get the same vibe. So here we go. And you want it to get bigger and bigger as time goes by. So I added this buzzy string space, which you can find under soundscapes, under synthesizers in your Logic library. This is standard stuff as well. And I just added a bit more punch to it because I wanted to fill the space. It sounded a bit empty. So as we went along, it got bigger and bigger. You know, at the start, there wasn't a European folk kit. It wasn't a heavy kit. And later, right before the strings coming in, I added these cymbals from this orchestral drum cinema as well. It's under Legacy, Logic, Surround, under orchestral drum cinema. So just these three cymbals here. So that's really big, you know. Right before the strings come in. Okay, so now on to the strings. Okay, this set of strings, I'm going to take out the amp, I'm going to take out the send, reverb. It's actually pretty standard EXS24 strings that you can find under orchestral strings, full string staccato. And what's playing is 16 notes, you can see here. Pretty straight up stuff. I'm going to play it for you. Sorry, I'm going to solo it. Really boring stuff. Okay, the first thing to do, we're going to make it interesting, is we're going to add an amp. And this is a standard, you know, Logic amp designer. I use a standard preset, which is Modern Rock 1. And you can hear the difference already. Pretty cool. You know, let's add a reverb. So we send it to the same reverb on bus 6. Sounds good. Now we need to add this pitch bend to both of them. So it's sounding pretty good already, pretty much like the track. Now we look at this thing. It's a classical female ensemble. You can see it here. It's a preset under the jam pack voices, choir, classical female ensemble. And I know it says boys chamber swells here, but that's not it. They're just playing one note. and it's just this note. So that's it. And just to give it a little bit of thickness, you know, to go together with the strings, like a pad. And I added something from Alchemy, which is an overdrive lead, just to give it that grittiness. And it's one of the standards as well. It's called a Beyond overdrive lead. I moved the perform to between simple and bright ring just to get the right tone. This one is also playing singular note, but with a pitch bend, same as the strings over here. So here's how it sounds. Pretty straight up, you know, nice top layer, and you put them all together, it sounds like that. That's right. And I added one more thing on top of the buzzy string space that I showed you before. They're playing 3 octaves of the same note in 16th, and here's how they sound. Put all of them together, here's how they sound. And if you put them together with the drums, here's how they sound. Starting to sound really, really big. Really enjoy that. And there's a synth here that I took from the Apple Loops. It's called Floor Sweeper Bass that you can find here in the Apple Loops. All these here are Apple Loops, so you can find them. This is also a Floor Sweeper Bass. I put this Twilight Noise sweep here just right before it got really, really big. Because that's how Junkie did it as well. It's not the exact same sounds, and please remember, what we're doing here is not using the exact same sounds, but we're trying to create the same feeling of aggression, of transition, you know. So feel free to explore different sound sets. If you feel like you found a better sound than what I have here, feel free to substitute them, explore, you know, it's all part of the learning process. Now, that's kind of everything. And I'm going to play it to you from the top just to give you a feeling of how the whole track sounds. I didn't do anything fancy with the final product. I just put a limiter, you know, yeah, on precision. Gain's supposed to be down to 0. And yeah, that's kind of it, you know. Like I say, feel free to explore, try different options, you know. Put the track on top, jump to it every now and then and see how you can emulate the kind of sounds that you have. And it's a good way to learn, you know, comparing what you've done with what the track is really like and trying to sort of emulate the style, the feel, the sounds. So there you go.